Robbie was a nice little rabbit, and he had a lot of friends, just like you do. And now to go play with his friends, Robbie would have to travel a little ways through the forest down a path. Every day before he'd leave to go play with his friends, his mother would look at him, she'd cup his little chin in her paw, and she'd say, "Now, Robbie, there's 2 things you have to remember. Don't ever talk to the vulture, and don't ever eat the sweet berries." Robbie was a pretty obedient little bunny. He'd look at his mother and he'd say, "Yes, ma'am," and then he'd head off into the woods, going to his friend's house. One day, Robbie was hopping down that path when suddenly, right out in front of him, stepped a big, huge, ugly bird. Robbie stopped. He looked way up at him and he said, Who are you?" "Why, Robbie, I'm the vulture." The vulture? I've heard that somewhere before. "The vulture? I can't talk to you." And Robbie ran home just as fast as he could. That night when he was getting ready for bed, Robbie thought about telling his mother about meeting the vulture, but he hadn't really talked to him or anything, so he figured it didn't really matter. Now the next day when Robbie went out to play, you can probably guess who was waiting on him. Only this time, the vulture was sneaky. He hid in the bushes and he waited till Robbie came hopping past, and then he stepped out and said, "Yo, Robbie." Robbie stopped, turned around. The vulture! But the vulture was standing right in the middle of the path, and Robbie didn't have anywhere to run. And the vulture held up his wing and said, "Wait a minute, Robbie. Who told you not to talk to me?" My Your mother? Yeah, my mother. Oh, I can understand how your mother would feel, Robbie. After all, I understand and know exactly how I look. You see, I'm a big, ugly bird, and because of that, I just bet your mother thinks that I'm mean, but really I'm not. I'm a very nice guy, and I would like to be your friend. I don't know. Oh, come on, Robbie. Listen, it wouldn't hurt to talk to me for just 1 minute, would it? I mean, what could 1 minute hurt? And besides... And the vulture looked all around the sides. Nobody's looking. Nobody'll know. I won't tell if you won't. Wouldn't you like to have a new friend? Maybe I can do something nice for you. Well, Robbie thought, and he said, "Well, maybe just what?" And he talked to the vulture for just 1 minute, but then he began to feel bad about what his mother had always told him, and he ran home. That night, he was laying in the bed and he was thinking, I wonder if I should tell my father about talking to the vulture. And if I do, I would probably get a spanking. A spanking? I'm not going to say nothing. And that's exactly what Robbie said. Nothing. Now, the next day when Robbie went out to play, well... You can guess who was waiting on him, right? Yes, the vulture. The vulture was standing right out in plain view, and Robbie kind of came up to him real slow-like. The vulture motioned for him to come closer. "Come here, Robbie. How are you doing today?" I'm doing fine. How about you?" "Well, I'm doing fine too, Robbie, and listen, can you be my friend now?" I don't know." "Listen, Robbie, if you'll be my friend, why, let me ask you a question. Do you like presents?" "Presents? Why, who doesn't like presents?" I love presents. What do you have?" "Well, Robbie, I've got something very delicious, something I bet you would like a lot." Then the vulture held out a big, plump, juicy sweet berry. What is that a sweet berry?" "That's right, Robbie." "I'm not eating that thing." "Well, Robbie, it's very good." "I know, but my Your mother said not to eat it?" "Yeah, my mother said don't ever eat those sweet berries." "Well, Robbie, think about it now. Your mother was wrong about me, wasn't she? I've been nice to you, haven't I? I've been a friend. Not bad at all, like your mother said. If she was wrong about me, well, perhaps she was wrong about the berry. Besides, Robbie, nobody's looking. Nobody'll know. And then he held it out. Robbie took it and he looked at it very closely, and then he smelled it. It smelled okay. He tasted it. It tasted okay. Then he popped it in his mouth and he chewed it up and swallowed. And then what do you think happened? He loved it. It was delicious. It was the best thing he'd ever had in his whole life. But then he began to remember what his mother had said about eating those berries, and he started feeling bad, and he ran home as fast as he could. At night, when he was in the bed, he was laying there, and he was thinking, I wonder if I should tell my mother about the vulture and the sweet berries, and see, that would be like 2 spankings. I'm not saying nothing. And that's exactly what he said. Nothing. The next day when Robbie went out, well, I don't even need to ask. You know who was waiting on him, right? That's right, the vulture. This time Robbie just hopped right straight up to him. And the vulture looked at him and said, Robbie, how are you today? I'm fine. And you? I'm doing just fine, Robbie, and I've got something extra special for you today. And this time the vulture held out a whole bunch of sweet berries. I'm not eating all those things. Well, Robbie, you liked the one you had yesterday, right? Yeah. It didn't hurt you, did it? No. Well, Robbie, if one didn't hurt you, a whole handful won't hurt you. And besides, Robbie, nobody's looking. Nobody'll know. Robbie looked all around, and he didn't see anybody, and he looked at those berries, and he remembered how good that one had tasted the day before, and I know, and then he gobbled them all down. And boy, not only were they good, they were better than the one he'd had the day before. Now Robbie felt really bad about what he'd done after all his mother had told him so many times not to eat those berries and not to talk to that vulture, and he'd done it anyway. He ran home. That night, he was laying in the bed, and he was thinking, I wonder if I should tell my mother I'll get 3 spankings. I don't think I'll, after all, besides, what she doesn't know won't hurt her, and she really wasn't right about the vulture. He is nice, and the berries, they didn't hurt me. They were really good. I don't think I'll say anything. And of course, by now, you know, Robbie didn't say anything. Now, every day when Robbie went out to play, you can imagine who was waiting on him, right? That's right, the vulture. And he had what for him? Of course, he had those sweet berries every day. Every day, Robbie thought a little bit when he got home about telling his mother, but every day he thought a little less about telling her until finally, he just really didn't think about it at all. He kind of stopped thinking about his friends, too. You see, when Robbie used to be, when he'd wake up first thing in the morning, he'd straight go, and the first thing he'd think about is, I'm going to go play with my friends. And now, when he woke up, the first thing he thought was, sweet berries. And of course, who had the sweet berries but the vulture? And that's exactly who Robbie went to see every day. And it wasn't too long when he really didn't think about his friends anymore either. Everything seemed to be going along pretty fine until one day when Robbie hopped up to the vulture. Well, the vulture was right where he always was, just like he always was, except today was a little different. See, normally the vulture was standing there, and he had all those sweet berries for Robbie, but today he was standing there with his wings behind his back, and Robbie hopped up to him, and he said, Where's the sweet berries? Oh, I'm sorry, Robbie, but I didn't have time to get any today. You didn't have time to get... What? You didn't have time to get any sweet berries? I want my my sweet berries. He said, I want them now. Well, Robbie, hold on a minute now. I can see you're very upset there, but you see, I just didn't have time to get any before I left. But gosh, I don't. Well, I'm your friend, right? Yeah. Well, friends don't let friends down, do they? No. And you really want those berries, don't you? Yes. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Robbie. I'm going to do something for you I've never done for anybody else. The vulture looked all around very slowly, and then he motioned for Robbie to come real close, and he leaned over and whispered in his ear, I'm going to show you where the sweet berries grow. Then you can go pick them any time you want to. Robbie thought, cool! I can have all the berries I want anytime I want them. Well, show me where they are. Let's go right now. Follow me, the vulture said, and he took off flying. And Robbie was hopping right behind him. The vulture flew and flew through the forest, and Robbie kept hopping, and the vulture kept flying, and Robbie kept hopping, and the vulture kept flying, until the vulture flew all the way to the edge of the forest, where the desert started. Now, Robbie stopped right there. None of the animals that lived in the forest ever went out into the desert. It was hot. It was dry. It was a terrible place for an animal that lived in the forest. But the vulture just kept on flying. And Robbie was standing there and, oh, what am I going to do if I don't follow the vulture? I can't get the berries, but that sand, it looks so hot. It looks so hot. But the vulture just kept flying, and Robbie said, what am I? And then he figured, well, maybe if he hopped very fast, the sand wouldn't burn his feet. So he went, and he was hopping across that desert as fast as he could, and the vulture was flying and flying, and Robbie was hopping and hopping, and the vulture was flying and flying, and Robbie was hopping and hopping, and the vulture was flying and flying, and Robbie was getting kind of tired, and the vulture was flying and flying, and Robbie was getting kind of hot, and the vulture was flying and flying, and Robbie could barely hop any more, and the vulture was flying and flying, and Robbie couldn't go one more hop, and he stopped, and he fell over in the sand. And as soon as he did, that vulture circled back around and came and landed right next to him. Robbie looked up at him and he said, where's the sweet berries? Why, Robbie, there aren't any sweet berries. But you said there were. Why'd you lie to me? And the vulture leaned over real close and said, Robbie, you should have listened to your mother. And then he flew off, and he waited.